Good evening, Rose. It is so nice to have you joining me again on the show. I get the privilege of having you. I don't know, Marcia. Anyhow, I can leave that. I can just leave that. You, yeah, I can just leave. Welcome, Rose. It's so nice to have you joining us again tonight. We're going to have a great evening. We have some things upcoming, but of course, we want you to share your segment with us and share with us what is on your heart regarding where we are at the moment in Barbados. Where is our paradise? We just had a tremendous presentation there by Nigel. I almost called him Dr. Newton. I don't think he would object if I did that. But with Nigel, drawing the parallels between what happened back in the 15th century to what is happening today. And so we want to welcome you for what you are going to educate us with on this show tonight.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your welcome and good evening to you. Always a pleasure to share space with you. And also, good evening to the loyal sons and daughters, all firm
Yes.
craftsmen of her faith. And I've got quite a few things. Marcia had asked me for a topic, and to be honest, I just could not get my head wrapped around a topic at all. And I see that there's a caption here, but as I was preparing, I came up with follow the leader, and that's what I'm going to look at. And it is continuing on the theme of crime and violence and public safety. And I am going to be speaking directly to the Prime Minister, the Honorable Prime Minister, Madam Mia Motley. I give her her due respect. And I'm reminded by, and I recall his name, Pastor Paul Leacock, who, in a conversation we had last week, he said, remember Nebuchadnezzar and Daniel. Although Daniel was in captivity in Babylon and his life was threatened by the leader, King Nebuchadnezzar, when he went into the king's presence, he
Hmm.
said, King Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live
Forever.
forever.
Yes.
And I hold no grudges over the longevity or life of the prime minister. But what I do require of her is justice, transparency, good governance, and leadership. And so I'm going to address this whole thing of crime and violence and public safety at two levels: where the Prime Minister is found, where the Prime Minister is positioned. And I'm going to ask Dave quickly to share this with me. And I'm going to speak first, Pastor Ferdinand, to the Prime Minister's position as a CARICOM leader and the chair of CARICOM at the present, which she demits on the last day of June. So on the screen, I shall read um, what I have here. Dear Madam Prime Minister, I made many attempts to write a public letter to you on crime and violence in Barbados. First, in your capacity as the Prime Minister of Barbados, and secondly, on the same topic in your position as Chair of CARICOM for the period 1st January 2025 to 30th June 2025. On the latter, I had intended to ask of you for updates on CARICOM's various declarations and positions on crime and violence in the region. When should I have done it? I asked myself. A good time might have been just before or during the last CARICOM heads of government meeting held here in Barbados, 19th to the 21st February 2025, for their 48th regular meeting. But then again, I did not want to ruin, that should be ruined, the risk of being scolded by you and others for embarrassing you before your regional Caribbean colleagues and other diplomats from across the globe who would have been, next slide, attending that conference. In a sense, I'm glad I didn't raise the matter after seeing how much you enjoyed yourself at the opening ceremony during the entertainment segment, as you proudly and happily showcased the culture and talents of Barbados, especially that of the Foundation School Steel Orchestra. I am not one inclined to rein in on any person's parade, and I respected your space then, respect you. I noticed from the communique on the CARICOM website that the agenda of that meeting under your chairmanship included matters such as food and nutrition security, climate change and the climate finance agenda, the ongoing challenges in Haiti, security issues, digital resilience, external relation matters, and the CARICOM single market and economy, CSME. Other issues such as maritime and air transport, West Indies, cricket, and reparations were included to be discussed. I did not notice any specific reference on crime and violence in the region, which I thought would be a priority on the agenda. Maybe it was encapsulated under security issues. Now may be a good time to ask you, since you'll be demitting the office of chairperson on June 30th, 2025. I do recognize that some of the events at CARICOM level on crime and public safety were before your assumption of chair. However, as a CARICOM leader, you were party to the declarations made by yourself and your regional counterparts. And I believe you should be called upon to update us, the Barbadian public, on the progress made with regard to the following. CARICOM statement made on crime and public safety after the inaugural symposium on crime and violence as a public health safety issue, and the declaration of the heads of government in Trinidad and Tobago on the 17th to the 18th of April 2023. CARICOM heads of government met in caucus in Georgetown, Guyana on the 27th of February 2024 to discuss the prevailing dire state of crime, violence, and public safety amongst its member states. Heads of government reiterated their firm commitment to the principles stated in and to the implementation of the actions set out in the Declaration of Crime and Violence as a Public Health Safety Issue. In reaffirming the right of freedom of expression and to public speech, CARICOM heads of government strongly condemned the development, presence, tolerance, or acceptance of violent, antisocial music and social media content that denigrate women and encourage or promote or support the use of violence, guns, and other antisocial behavior, particularly targeted to our youth. These are declarations, ma'am. What has been done? What mechanisms have been put in place to translate these declarations into strategies and actions? Did you pursue this matter with the necessary due diligence to your benefit and that of Barbados as we grapple with increased gun violence and crime that are negatively impacting on public safety. I would have thought that given the increase in crime and gun violence in Barbados, that you would have used your dynamic leadership to work assiduously with your counterparts to bring collective pressure on the forces that are seeking to destroy individual sovereignties and the region at large. It cannot always be about climate change and climate resilience. In that same communique, CARICOM heads of government affirmed their support for engaging with young people in the creative economy, including the entertainment and music industry and the sporting industry, to develop, support, and spread across the region positive content to offset the negative impact of antisocial, violent, and criminal behavior, which some elements in that sector promote and support. I say, Pastor Ferdinand. In addition, it is stated that given the serious, significant, and chronic negative development impact that crime and violence is having on member states, CARICOM heads of government committed to working with all sectors and institutions, including civil society, academia, labor, churches, our creatives, law enforcement, the judiciary, political parties, to implement all of the measures set out in the Declaration on Crime and Violence as a public health issue. Also, the statement from CARICOM informed that CARICOM heads of government remain committed to maintaining this region as a zone of domestic peace and safety to ensure the preservation of our CARICOM civilization. Madam Prime Minister Motley, does this statement just read still hold true for you and for your counterparts? For me, I am seeing an intrusion of crime and violence that seems not to be concerned with preservation of our Caribbean civilization. And closer to home, for me as a Barbadian, the preservation of our Barbadian civilization. Under the caption, Identifying Strategic Solutions to Tackle Crime and Violence is a priority for CARICOM. Dr. Armstrong Alexis, the Deputy Secretary General of CARICOM, during his address at the 47th meeting of the Council of Human and Social Development, Health on Friday the 27th of September 2024 in Washington, D.C., expressed that CARICOM heads of government are prioritizing the safety and security of the region, working collaboratively to address the social determinants that contribute to many ills, including crime and violence, that adversely impact public health, families, communities, and individuals. He also stated that CARICOM heads of governments expressed deep concern, and listen to this, deep concern about the levels of crime and violence in the region, driven in part by firearms and ammunition, trafficking, transnational criminal networks, and a breakdown of social structures and the impact of crime and violence on young people and children. I ask, what do you have to say about this, Madam Prime Minister? And could you enlighten us on the strategies that CARICOM would have identified that Barbados, as a nation which you lead, can extrapolate the best strategies and implement in the short term as soon as possible? And finally, Madam Prime Minister, as I look at the CARICOM level, could you please break down for me and the Barbadian public and others the George Bridge Declaration of the Second Regional Symposium on Crime and Violence as a Public Health Issue, hosted by Barbados Reverend Ferdy in Georgetown, hosted by Barbados in Georgetown, Guyana, on the 22nd of November 2024. This reminds me of the Bridgetown Initiative, which many are still grappling with, trying to comprehend and make sense of, and this is not for a lack of critical thinking minds. Is this another declaration to say I have led this and it becomes an instrument of CARICOM, just as the Bridgetown Initiative is purported as a forerunner of climate change and building climate resilience? The George Bridge Declaration sounds good and reads well, but how and when again will it be translated into action and measurable outcomes that will reduce the increasing daily rising crime and violence in our nation and home, Barbados? This I wrote considering that the Prime Minister chaired CARICOM for the last 6 months, heads of government. She chaired it. And I am still looking past to Ferdy for response to these declarations. We have been having too many talk shop, and our Prime Minister as chair, who is regarded as a regional leader, and I'm seeing the social influencers recently ask, who would you like to lead the CARICOM, lead the Caribbean? The Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Kamala, um, um, Kamala in Trinidad, the new Prime Minister, sorry, no disrespect. Is it Kamala Harris? Not too
Kamala
sure.
Bissestar.
Do you want Holness, Prime Minister Holness of Jamaica? Do you want that new Prime Minister from Grenada? And one other person, and the Caribbean has erupted and rejected their own leaders. They want Mia Motley. She is the best thing since sliced bread, right juicy, and coconut water, or right juicy, the original right juicy, and milk. And these are the questions I posed. And let me quickly go into the second half, Dave, please. I sent you some PowerPoints, and I'm going to quickly use
You're gonna have to be
because I
quick
know my
indeed.
time is up.
Yeah, you're gonna have to be quick
I've
indeed. You
got a
have
little
about
bit
10
more
more
time, about
minutes.
5, 10 minutes.
10 more minutes.
Yeah.
Yes, 10 minutes, and Dave is going to be pulling it up for you shortly.
So I can go on with that bit?
Yeah, I think you can. I believe if you need
Yes,
about
it's
10
short.
minutes, Dave,
It's short
let's see if
and
we
to
can
the
get that up.
point. Yes. having spoken, Pastor Ferdy, to the Prime Minister's performance, along with that of her counterpart at CARICOM, I'm coming close straight to home now. So
Yes.
let's see those videos, that PowerPoint quickly, Dave.
Just waiting for
The
that to come up. But
pictogram.
you've made some very valid points while Dave is getting that up for us.
Yes, I'm saying
Um,
that I end at
yeah,
8:35, so I've
yeah,
got 10 minutes quickly.
yes. So while he's pulling that up, you made some very valid points there. You know, I've been asking the question recently, Rose,
I'm not
even to my.
hearing, I don't know what's happening.
Oh, I'm not sure. You're not hearing me at all. Check your connections. Well, if she's not hearing me, she's not going to hear me say that. Are you hearing me, Rose?
Oh, something's happened here. Oh, I got a disconnect. I'm sorry. It's my fault.
Okay, you hearing me now?
Yes, please. It's my
Okay,
fault. I
that's all right. That's all right.
disconnected it.
Just
I'm
waiting for
sorry.
Dave to pull that PowerPoint
Yes,
up for you. Here it is.
follow the leader. And I put together some interesting. This is my take. They say that we don't offer suggestions. Well, here are my two major suggestions. So follow the leader, and you notice who the leader, they're all in red and everybody is following. Let's look at the next slide, Dave. This is the Prime Minister, very instructive at the UN on climate change. And notice the finger pointing.
Yeah,
And we have had a lot of finger pointing, chastising, directives, instructing everybody. We have had the prosecutor, chief prosecutor, can't remember his title.
DPP,
Yes, we have
Director of
had.
Public Prosecutions.
Yes, we have
Yes.
had instructions from her to the Auditor General. The Prime Minister instructs, she directs, she instructs parents, she tells parents what they should be doing with their children. She's told the NCSA to get out into the community and talk to the young people. I worked with the NCSA in 1999. 98, 99, and I went out into community with Cheryl Willoughby, who heads up the Criminal Justice Agency. I went out there with Wendy Greenwich, a community drug educator, Bumba Payne. I went out there with him, and we went into the community way back talking to you. The Prime Minister has instructed in CSA, and rightfully so, if they're not doing it now, to get out into the community. She has gone to the church when they had that church service, starting the activities for the BLP. But we know that it was really a
Yes.
launch of the St. James North by election,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
she instructed us there to get the children back to school, back to church, sorry. And we've been instructed what to do, and it's ad nauseum. And this is the kind of way that she relates to people wherever. And I'm asking the Prime Minister to use that in the following, and come to the other slides, please. And I'm not being disrespectful. Until you can get youth here, these youth here that we see walking the street, on public transportation, on the blocks, linemen, next slide there. Just as you were able to get the buses and bus the young people and their families, I saw down at East Coast Road two or three or a group of little primary school age children right up on the stage as that entertainment was going on, and it was into the night. And we know that buses were hired to transport, ferry their supporters in hundreds down to East Coast Road. Get these same buses, Prime Minister, go into your constituency, which is St. Michael
East, I think.
West, St. Michael West.
West, Michael West.
Get them on the bus. Next slide, Dave. You know them, Prime Minister, not this one. You know them, but the one before this. You know them, Prime Minister. You have been their representative. It is several generations you've represented. You started your political career. And I don't like this thing called public life. Public life is civil servants. Public servants. You started your political life and career at the expense of St. Michael West, and you know those households. Go and knock on the door just as you did in St. James North by election. Go and knock on the doors as you have done to get the votes. And let your MPs also do the same. Knock on the doors, go into
Like
the
that.
street corners and wherever the young people congregate. Get the buses yourself and take them to places of worship. Preferably as a Christian, I would say take them to my Christian places and congregations of worship. But let's follow your lead. Stop telling us who are doing it Sunday after Sunday, using our cars, using the church buses to take young people to church, giving them bus fare. You let us follow your lead. Get those buses, the same buses that carried people to the St. James North meetings, and go on the block for those young people that I would have shown with their pants down under the bottoms, those who have the guns, those who have the drugs. I listened to you, Prime Minister, listing the different drugs that young people are using and asking if the parents and guardians are aware of these drugs and that they need to get with it. You know these drugs. You know that young people are being affected by the use of them. Get the buses, tell them, hop on the buses and carry them, lead them to places of worship. Maybe then we'll be able to follow you. Next slide quickly, Dave, and I am wrapping up. I've just got a few minutes.
You got
These
2 minutes.
these school children, get them on the bus also. And here is my suggestion. I've offered two. And these are hard. This thing costs the money. This doesn't need a consultation. Get those school children into zones. Into zones. Don't target the schools that are perceived as trouble schools. Zone them. Zone them, the Eastern Zone, the wherever. Bring them together in the gymnasium. I don't want the entertainment, just the national anthem, just the pledge, and some good music that would settle them. Not the latest ZR music, the latest vibe that they hear. Bring them into the gymnasium. And you, Prime Minister, just as you do to us, the adults, just as you do to at UN and all the other places you go on the global stage and
I
point
like
your
that.
finger at these young
I
people
like
and
that.
say, enough is enough.
I
Go
like that.
into your constituency and let your MPs do it and find out you know where these deviant behaviors lodge and point your finger, smoke them out, face them and challenge them to change. Until you do that, I will consider if you should be followed when it comes to crime and violence and public safety. Put action into your words. And this is what we don't want to see. Dave, pull up this one. This is the example. The last one was Lil Rick, please. That video, please. This is what our young people have been exposed to. Dave, do you have that one? That clip?
I'll see if that might be it, but we'll see if he comes back with that. But Rose, let me say this, you
Yes,
talk about
please.
going out into the community in this manner. I like what you're saying. I like what I hear. I like that's what a leader does, especially in the context of where we are as a country right now. Many years ago, several years ago, not many years ago, several years ago, we were holding services at the Lestavon School. And one Sunday morning, I had a Land Rover then. And one Sunday morning, my wife, unknown to me, we're inside the auditorium worshiping the Lord and everything. She picks up my Land Rover, goes out driving, goes up Rock Dunda, finds some fellas up there playing football on a playing field, and tells them, "Come, let's go to church." Rose, no joke. These young men piled into my Land Rover because they wanted to see what church they could come to, dressed the way they were dressed playing football, and piled into the Land Rover and came to the Lester Vaughan School to the service. And came in. They didn't sit down in the back, She refused to let them sit in the back. She brought them right up front. And these young men sat through the entire service. Now, I hear you. I hear you talking to the Prime Minister, telling the Prime Minister, go into the community. Same people you go to every 5 years to get a vote, go to them now and listen to what they have to say concerning the crime and violence in our country. Listen to what they have to say in terms of the suggestions they would be making in terms of addressing the matter within their constituency. Take those school children into the gymnasium and talk to them the same way you will talk to the leaders of the rest of the world about climate change. Talk to those young people about what you perceive to be the future for them. And I
And
like
not
what you're
only that,
saying. I
Pastor
like what you're
Purdy,
saying.
not only that, I
I
want her to speak definitively on her intolerance,
yes, yes,
zero tolerance, and zero tolerance on student violence on teachers
yes, yes,
and on
yes,
their counterparts in the classroom and on the school compound. Enough
yes.
is enough
Is enough.
until you
Enough
can
is
show
enough.
me that you are leading deliberately in that area. Stop the lot alone talk
Talk.
and stop
Absolutely.
putting
Absolutely.
pressure on the Barbadian public who live in
Yes.
fear and who are doing their utmost best given these circumstances. You know who they are. You fraternize, Prime Minister. We see it. And I want the public to see this is the kind of leadership that our young people have been exposed to. It's quite interesting what the leader of opposition shared, and that it's becoming increasingly blurred. I
Troubling.
Hmm.
don't know if it's deliberate, but it's becoming increasingly blurred where it stops, where it begins. The prime minister has, I think there are certain liberties or things taken for granted since we have had the two, um, the back to back 30-0 uh, dominance by the BLP in the house, the lower house, as well as the upper house. And you would recall, Pastor Ferdy, some time back, when I spoke on this platform and I told the Prime Minister, no, no, Madam Prime Minister, you do not have the authority. Remember, I think it was the wrap up to the budgetary proposal debate, debate back then. And when she talked about how if it were, when the leader of opposition's theme was, uh, show me, what was it again? You remember Nigel Pastor Ferdy, his theme, and the refrain throughout, show me whatever it was, I will see a tyranny in the making. I can't remember.
I
Oh,
can't
yes,
remember
yes.
either.
Show me a
Yeah.
democracy, and I'll
Okay.
show you a tyranny in the making.
Yes, yes,
Right.
yes. And in that, in her wrap up, she said that, um, if her government were that a tyranny in the making or tyranny, um, she would not have allowed the marches or the
Mm,
people to march or permit the marches to go on. And you remember my quick rebuttal was, no, no, Madam Prime Minister, that does not fall under you. It's the permission comes
Commissioner.
from the commissioner of
Of
police. You're
police.
not
Yes.
offering us you're not giving us a privilege. You are not allowing us. Don't go down that road. This is the role of the commissioner of police who gives the permission. And if the commissioner of police sees that what is being done or intends to be undertaken is a threat to public safety and security, he he stops it. But you cannot say that is you allow the public of Barbados to exercise their right, their freedom of association, and to walk the streets of Barbados in peaceful protest. And she said it again, Pastor Ferdy and colleague Newton. She said it again at that press conference that we see there. She said it that she basically allows these marches to go on and the public outcry against her. No, no, I didn't have a chance to comment on it. But no, no, Madam Prime Minister, it is not, the ball is not in your court. You
Yes.
are not even in this game.
mm,
You are not even in the game. And so I am glad that Mr. Thorne has taken the time at that press conference to educate, because
Yes.
people
Yes.
feel that the prime minister is, I don't, the prime minister has all this right. And if you go on social media, as I study, I analyze social media. When you go on social media, people tend to want to silence observations that the prime minister does not have the penultimate nor the ultimate right to control as she seeks to do. And I like the word that Mr. Thorne used,
Yes.
posturing,
Posturing. Absolutely.
posturing.
Posturing. Remember the teacher that was attacked at the Frederick Smith Secondary School? I mean, this is insane, Rose.
Um, you know why where I got that idea, and I mused over it, I worked through it, about telling the prime minister, and I mean it, it's not tongue in cheek, I mean it. I listened to last night, it was Marcia played Prime Minister Holness, and you could hear the passion and the fire in his voice that he's going after those criminal elements. Enough is enough in Jamaica. And under his leadership, we're seeing in Jamaica they are experiencing a reduction in crime and violent crime. And I listened last week after the incident at St. James Frederick Smith Secondary School, and the BUT, the no BSTU president, Miss Mary Redmond,
Hmm.
she said that the teachers left the classrooms and they all congregated on the compound um, under the trees. And her remark was they left the principal to deal with it. He hates the school, let him deal with it. And so, from what she said, they retreated, they retired from that environment, leaving the principal to deal with the charges. And I am saying, Reverend Ferd and colleague Newton, that there are times instead of interfering with uh, the responsibilities and the positions, as we've pointed out, the um, the director of public prosecutions and the auditor general and the commissioner of police. There are things that require your leadership. And so I said, take a page from that book, from that scenario at St.
Hmm.
James, down in St. James at the school, and take charge. Take charge, and not with a press conference, not with, and it isn't even a press conference now, it's a statement. And you say what you have to say, not even your colleagues at the highest level, your flank uh, or in your company, you've got the deputy prime minister and the AG, the highest levels within your cabinet. And when asked if they had anything to say, they didn't grasp the
They didn't have anything.
opportunity.
They didn't have anything to say.
They
They
didn't
didn't have
have
anything to say.
anything to say.
And, and
And therefore, I am saying that we need to see something that speaks to the reality and it's not canned and it is not another narrative.
well,
Take
again,
charge.